Welcome back to the video, guys. I'm grateful that you're here. Super gorgeous day. Today I wanted to talk about balancing work, fitness, and relationships. I recently had a subscriber reach out to me, and he kind of said, he mentioned he's going through a breakup. He's working in a field that doesn't exactly align with his values of health, but it pays well. And if there's anything that I know, it is that entire scenario. So I figured I wanted to talk about kind of my experience with it and how I view balance as to where now my life has got very good balance between the relationship that I'm in, the work that I have, as well as my fitness. So first, just to give you a little backstory, I was in my last semester of college and I was dating a woman at the time. And as the end of the semester approached and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do for work, I was starting to take my health and fitness very seriously, and specifically in powerlifting at the time. I was starting to really get into it. I just noticed things were getting a little bit harder to manage and deal with. And so I really wanted to make the relationship work. And I did everything I could to try to balance everything else that was also important to me. But this incessant need to have perfect balance is exactly why it didn't work out. So there's this law known as the backwards law, which is basically the harder that you try for something, the less that you get from it, because we're so attached to the outcome. And this is also something that I recently read in the Bhagavad Gita, which is like a Hindu religious text where it's talking about karmic action, where it's saying you should do your duty and take action without expecting anything in return. And what I found is anything in my life that I have gotten that has been very rewarding, this has most of the time been the case. And so at this time, I was so focused on myself that eventually the relationship crumbled. And it's because I wasn't emotionally available. I wasn't present with the woman I was there with because I was trying to balance everything else, and my mind was always in 1,000 different directions. So I lacked intention whenever I was there. And I'll get into that here in a little bit, but this is because true balance in the way that most people think about it, like work-life balance, having the perfect amount going into everything, just is not possible on the micro scale. So on the day-to-day or even the week-to-week, it's not really possible. It is possible on a macro scale, on if you look at things on a year, quarterly to quarterly or year-to-year basis, it is more possible, but in the day-to-day, week-to-week, it's not really. So when you think about most things in life, there are diminishing returns to anything that we do depending on the time and the effort that we spend doing it. And so this means that, doing more isn't always better, because if you think about it, in each area of your life, work, health, relationships, whatever, there are a few primary levers that give you most of the result that you're looking for. And so this means that this idea of balancing all these things is more like a delicate dance. You got to give and take. Sometimes you got to sit back and let things happen and just not necessarily react, but you just kind of got to go with it. And then other times you got to attack full force and take advantage of opportunities when you have time to do other things. Because any woman worth dating will tell you that they would rather spend 30 minutes with your undivided attention than 2 hours where you're distracted and your mind's everywhere else and you're not really present. And, when it comes to building muscle, there's a certain threshold that once you pass, you don't necessarily get more gains. And in fact, it could probably hurt your gains or stall progress. So balance won't occur in the typical sense that you think about it. It's going to occur over a longer time scale, not necessarily in the week to week or arguably even month to month. And so it requires you to understand a couple things. It requires you to understand those leverage points. So what is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck in the shortest amount of time? And so in your relationship, this is going to be, that time that you spend intentionally where it's just you two, your phone's put away, you are solely focused on that person. In your fitness, it's going to be in terms of building muscle, hypertrophy, it'll be doing 2 to 3 sets within 2 to 3 reps shy of failure. And for most people, that's going to be perfect. And 6 to 10 sets per muscle group in a total session, which really ultimately doesn't take that long. I mean, your workouts could be 45 minutes and you could get jacked you could get jacked and do that till the end of time and get incredible results. And so I think something that's super important to understand is find your leverage points, find what's going to give you the most bang for your buck. And I go through this, you're going to kind of hear everything that I'm talking about. But so first, let's just look at relationships. So first, it's important that you date someone with similar values to you. They don't have to necessarily enjoy the same things, but their overall philosophy on life and what matters most does matter. And usually there's 1 to 2 big values that you have that your partner needs to have. And so these are the non-negotiables that you have to function in a relationship, so that you aren't also sacrificing your own self-interest and sense of happiness. And so your job is to figure out what those 1 to 2 things are. And your values aren't this hyper-specific thing. It could just be something as minimal as self-growth, and the vehicle for that happens to be fitness. And all you have to do is be able to communicate that and date someone that also values their own version of self-growth. Yours could be fitness, theirs could be writing or journaling or meditation or whatever it is. You just have to be able to communicate that effectively. And so another value that you could put to your health is maybe you don't like going to eat out all the time because you prefer to eat at home and know exactly what ingredients are being put into your food. And for many people, this could be a deal breaker if it's communicated up front. And it doesn't mean you won't go out to eat, but just that it wouldn't be an every weekend thing. And for some people, that happens to matter. But that's going to save you a lot of trouble in terms of relationships if you can communicate that effectively. And how we communicate those values are super important. So when it comes to communication, it's important to have the same definitions of terms and words. And so language, it's all based on what we agree with to be true, or it's how we communicate effectively with one another. And so making sure that certain meanings of words, and so make sure that the words you're using whenever you're explaining your values and explaining these things to your partner, make sure they're the same as theirs, because obsessed with fitness is different from one person to another. For some people, just going to the gym 3 times a week and just watching what you eat is obsession to them. To me, obsession is every meal is dialed into the perfect amount of macros. You're hitting every single weight in the gym that you need to hit for that session, sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night. Your entire life revolves around it, right? And so that's an important thing to be able to talk about with people. One person's version of relaxing could be completely different from yours. So my definition of relaxing is going to the gym and writing and just doing stuff like that. Whereas other people is just to sit on the couch like a potato and watch Netflix. And that's totally okay. But this is where I think a lot of people screw up, is they don't have the same definitions of things. And it makes it a hell of a lot easier if you both are just on the same page. Now, when they come back and they give you feedback, it does not mean that you have to change. Sometimes somebody's going to have to compromise with you. And as a man, I feel this is a necessity to stand your ground into what way is acceptable for you, and while still remaining on your mission of self-actualization, if that is a thing that you're on. So when you're dating someone and you find the pull to need to improve yourself, or this is a desire to improve yourself, then you need to have that conversation about what your goals are up front and what it's going to require you, but also what you are going to need from your partner. And you need to actually put these things that you do on a schedule in order to set proper expectations, and then you need to follow through with those expectations. So if you say you're going to go to the gym Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, and Monday, Tuesday, Friday, it's going to be after work every single one of those days, well, you need to try to stick to that the best you can and not change anything else, because a lot of times your partner is they will look at that and they're going to set the times that they know they're going to get time with you on those other days. So it's also important for you to stay consistent and true to what you say that you're going to do. And this is the same way for you, where you may not like somebody that's scattered with what they do or how they feel, and you need to do what you can to avoid causing that feeling for somebody else. Because when you are predictable in the sense of where your time and energy is going in regards to your mission, it makes it much easier for the right partner for you to be able to know when they are going to get your time and your attention. And so on a fundamental human level, our minds crave the familiar. So if your schedule becomes familiar with your woman or man or whatever in terms of when she's going to get quality time with you, then it makes it easier for them to let you do the things while they do their thing. Now, it is my opinion that during this entire time, your health and fitness should always be a top priority. Your levels of energy from your day-to-day inputs come from your health. So your shit inputs are going to lead to shit outputs. So if you consistently feel like shit, then you're going to consistently act like shit. Your energy is going to be scattered, your mind will be scattered, and these things will compound to where all of a sudden you don't know how to properly function and communicate effectively, and you're not even going to be you. And so whenever it comes to work and how to balance all of that, it's okay to love your 9-to-5 job, and it's also okay to hate your job and work a side hustle. Just make sure that either one does not hurt you. And so if you hate your job, focus on getting a new one or focus on getting another skill. If your job pays well, you really like the money, like I said, try to build a skill, treat it like a playground in that aspect. And if your job doesn't line up with exactly what you value, then do some soul searching and figure out what you're willing to suffer for. However, suffering is something that we do to ourselves. And it isn't something anything outside of us can control. It happens when we are having an argument with reality and not accepting what it actually is. And usually what I find is this stems from expectations that we set on ourselves, which make it really difficult to live in the moment and execute on things, only the things that we can control. So the separation of ourselves and the outside world is where this general sense of anxiety comes from. And so I know I already mentioned the Bhagavad Gita, but dutiful action, or doing the thing that you need to do because it's what is required of you in your life right now, it's about doing something without expecting a result to happen. And this doing of the thing without expecting that result is where many people truly enjoy what it is that they do. And think about a friend that you might have that always seems to just do a bunch of random shit, but they always enjoy whatever it is, and they always end up killing it anyway. And then you wonder why they don't try to go make a business out of it or try to be the best at that thing. And it's because they just enjoy it for what it is, and it leads to a feeling of flow and enjoyment in their life that only they can replicate for themselves. And this only happens from truly enjoying the thing just because it's a thing that you can do and get better at. And this is where I personally tend to suffer with my day job, because I don't like it like at all, but it pays the bills. But there are certain aspects of it that I find relatively enjoyable from building a skill perspective in the sense of sales. And so whenever we try to balance these things and stop feeling this sense of anxiety from work and that we don't like it and we're not aligned to it, then when you're at work, just be turned on as long as you possibly can to get whatever the primary task that you need to get done for the day so that you don't lose your job. And then the rest of the time, focus on whether finding something else is a better option for you or building a skill that would, be something a little bit more your speed. And so I can assure you that if you keep failing, then I can assure, even if you fail at all this, you suck, then you will still feel better about yourself for just keeping at it. And if you do enjoy your day job, then just make sure that you're not distracted while you're there. Give it everything you have while you're there. And once it's time to leave, turn it off. Focus on the other pillars of your life. Whether it's whenever you go to the gym, focus on your workout. When you're at home, focus on your partner. And so balancing your work with your health and relationships is all about time dedication and how much energy you are choosing to dedicate to each. But whenever you do it, being super intentional with the time that you're spending. And this is going to be a massive play in your relationships because your attention isn't going to be elsewhere. It's going to be all in on that person. And that 30 minutes is more impactful than 3 hours of time spent not doing whatever. And this is going to help every area of your life because your attention's not going to be elsewhere. It's going to be all in on the thing that you're doing. And then you're going to give your mind ease to know that you can go all in on all of the other things in life. And this is going to help you get more work done in less time. So this was a little bit more of a ranty video. I hope it helped. If it did, leave a comment if you found anything valuable. But other than that, peace.